Hello and welcome to RS Agarwal's IAS. In this video of the Daily News Express, let us discuss the important topics appearing in the Hindu newspaper of today, that is 29th October 2020. Let us start. The first article that we come across is about the ACER survey, or the survey which is called as the Annual State of Education Report. So this ACER survey is an annual survey conducted by NGO whose name is Pratham. Please remember this. This is not a government survey, but it is done by a non-governmental organization called as Pratham annually. And this talks about rural education. It talks about learning outcomes and such other things with regards to education in general. So let us see what are the basic findings that this survey has given us this time, and let us analyze how it is important for us. So this caters to GS paper 2 from the aspect of issues related to education. So let us see the several findings. The first finding says that 5.3% of rural children aged 6 to 10 years are not enrolled in schools. Let's reread this. 5.3% of rural children 6 to 10 years are not enrolled in schools. If you talk about the year 2018, this number was 1.8%. So if you see now, in a span of 1 year, it has gone to 5.3%. Apart from this, we have to understand that 20% of rural children don't have textbooks at home. So the basic education that you get is from the textbooks that they have at home, and 20% of rural children don't have textbooks at home. So this is like an average, but if you see, there is a state-wise disparity. As Andhra Pradesh has, let's say, 50% of children who are having textbooks, 50% don't, where Maharashtra has lesser than that. So there is state-wise disparity, but on an average, 20% rural students do not have textbooks. See, the headline also says the same thing. Then we can learn the next finding that 70% of rural children have done some kind of learning activity. 70% of rural children have done some kind of learning activity, but only 11% of this 70% have access to online classes. So this is a very dismal picture of how our country is successful, or how our schools are successful in being able to provide online classes. So if 70% of rural children were able to do some kind of learning activity, only 11% of them had access to online classes. Next point we can learn is that 36% of rural children have received learning materials online. Or we can just talk about they have received the learning material, and 36% of this are those children. And then you can talk about how 62% of rural households have smartphones. Right, 62% of rural households. This number has increased comparison to last year, and it is also noted that 11% of families bought new phone after the lockdown. 11% of the rural families have bought a new phone after the lockdown, and 80% of this were smartphones. Predominantly so because the children wanted to access online education, and 80% of which are smartphones. Now, talking about how these children have received learning material, most of it is through WhatsApp. Through WhatsApp has become a very important medium for the children and for the schools to provide the learning material to the students. So these are all the findings of the ACER survey, or the annual state of education report provided by the NGO Pratham. Let us revisit it quickly. 5.3% rural children aged 6 to 10 are not enrolled in schools. This was the scenario, 1.8% of the scenario in the year 2018. 20% of rural children don't have textbooks at home, and when we can see state-wise disparity in it. 70% children have done some kind of rural activity, but only 11% of these children have access to online classes, and 36% children have received some kind of learning material online. 62% of rural households have smartphones, out of which separately 11% have bought smartphones after the lockdown, and 80% of these phones, not I'm sorry, they have bought phones, not smartphones, and out of them 80% of them are smartphones. Out of this 11%, 80% of them are smartphones. So if you talk about how these children have received the learning material, it is through WhatsApp. These rural children have received learning materials from their private schools or government schools through WhatsApp. So WhatsApp has become a very, very important medium for the children to receive their learning material. So this is the survey of education today. So the national education policy talks about how there needs to be inclusive education, how there needs to be children who need to learn and have learning outcomes. But if this is the scenario of the rural education, it becomes very difficult. And you can talk about the disparity in having textbooks and disparity in having access to online classes, which becomes another important issue to be spoken about. Well, I hope this is clear. You can inculcate this in your answers to talk about the status of rural education in India and so on. Let us move on to the next topic. This topic talks about India and US relations post 2+2 summit that happened recently. It went on for like 2 days. It caters to GS paper 2 international relations as well as prelims examination. So let us learn about how this summit panned out for India, and let us see a little bit of backdrop. In the backdrop, in the previous DNEs, we have discussed that this 2+2 summit reminded us of the 2016 2+2 summit, where John Kerry came down and helped India to sign the Paris Agreement. And the things turned out differently that time, as Hillary Clinton did not win the election, but Donald Trump did, who pulled out of the Paris Agreement. And now we have Mike Pompeo and his counterparts talking about the further ties with regards to Indo-Pacific, anti-China, or the Quad rhetoric. So now, according to the reports and what India has said through its official statements, that this meeting was very constructive and we are at a firm footing is what they have said. So we have signed several agreements also that clearly defines the fact that this meeting was very helpful and it has become very successful. The first and the most important one is BECA, that everybody is talking about and that we need to be aware of. Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. BECA is the Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. So what is the benefit of us signing BECA with USA? So when we sign with BECA with USA, we will get access to geospatial maps of USA. Let me repeat, we will get access to geospatial maps of USA through which we can get to pinpoint some locations with perfect accuracy, and this will help us in military, defense, and such capabilities. If we have access to geospatial maps of the USA, it will help us to pinpoint specific locations very accurately, and we will have good strategic defense perspective, military perspective, and other perspectives. So this is somewhat like an automated hardware systems that we get access to, and weapon systems also will get access to, like cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, which will be further specified later. India will also become an important potential buyer or acquirer of an unmanned aerial vehicle from the USA called as the Predator B. Remember this, Predator B. India will be acquiring Predator B from the USA soon, and this Predator B uses spatial data for accurate strikes on the enemy. So Predator B uses geospatial data for accurate strikes on the enemy, and most importantly, there are 4 agreements that USA had put forth with regards to alliance with different countries on military fronts. These are called as the 4 foundational military communication agreements. 4 foundational military communication agreements. These were, let me name them for you: GSMO, GSOMIA. So GSOMIA stands for General Security of Military Information Agreement, which India has signed. And then we can talk about LEMOA. We call it LEMOA, or the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Then you have the SISMOA. What is SISMOA? SISMOA stands for Communication and Information Security Memorandum of Agreement. So these are the 3 agreements that India has signed previously, that is GSMOA, LEMOA, and SISMOA. So you can remember this with the short forms. GSMOA stands for General Security of Military Information Agreement. LEMOA stands for Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, and then SISMOA stands for Communication and Information Security Memorandum of Agreement. So now we have signed the BECA, that is the Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. So all these 4 agreements, when we sign with USA, we become great partners with USA, and it will propel our friendship with USA. And initially India had some kind of reservations, or forethoughts about signing it. India had reservations to the several the kind of things that came with this agreement, but India finally negotiated with itself and went ahead with this agreement because India had several things to talk about, its threats and hostile enemies, and USA can turn out to be a very, very fruitful friend for India to share such kind of cooperation. So all in all, if we talk about, the 2+2 agreement has turned out to be very, very successful. And apart from this, let us discuss some more aspects. Apart from BECA, India has signed several agreements. These agreements relate to health agreements, agreements on health you can talk about, agreements on fighting COVID-19, agreements on renewable energy, agreements on space, agreements on counter-terrorism, cyberspace, counter-narcotics, so on and so forth. So these many agreements have been signed apart from BECA, which talks about a very, very good friendship ahead in the future. Apart from this, you can also talk about how USA has announced full support to India and spoken against Pakistan because of all the wrongs that Pakistan has done in the cross-border regime, where in the India and Pakistan border LOC, there are so many ceasefires and so many problems that Pakistan is creating for India, and USA has said Pakistan should stop these wrongdoings. It has also spoken about wrongs that have happened against India in 2008 Mumbai attacks, and also the 2016 Uri or Pathankot attacks. Very nice of USA to take India's stand and said what Pakistan has done is wrong. Most importantly, what we expected of USA was to speak up against China. USA has said what China has done in the LAC region is completely wrong, and USA stands against China, and USA will help India to fight these kind of problems in the future. Something very, very fruitful and something very, very important that we were all expecting, and USA has given us, and it has called out China for its activities and said it is irrational what China has done in the LAC region. So now we have to see how this will progress, how this will implicate on Indo-China relations, and how USA will take support. Now this all again depends on who wins the election, presidential election, because this is completely Mr. Trump's, all this is Mr. Trump's activities. But if someone else, his opponent Joe Biden wins the elections, we will have to see how this will turn out for India, because we don't want something like 2016 to repeat all over again. Of course, it was not very, very bad for us, but this is way more important than Paris Agreement because it is about the internal security and such aspects for India. I hope this is clear. Let us move on to the next topic. Here we are talking about the Indo-Pacific. This article written by Mr. Happymon Jacob is very, very beautiful because it gives an all-encompassing narrative of Indo-Pacific for us and caters to GS paper to international relations. And he explains several things. So let us learn this, understand this article and learn what he talks about one by one. First, we have to understand that this 2+2 summit holds a lot of importance, not just for India from the internal security perspective, but from the world perspective. It holds importance from world perspective because India is at the limelight now. India is in the limelight and India is in the forefront against what we called as China's hegemony, right? India is against the China's hegemony now. It's in the forefront, and India is the world is expecting India to take steps because India is now a potential ally of the USA. So this 2+2 agreement put us in a situation where we were forging a potential alliance partnership with USA, right? So this also is a part of the counter China measures. As you know, USA is also not in great friends with China now. So the world was looking at how India will collaborate with USA. And let us see what is the thing here and how we are going forward with this. First, let's understand about the two things that hold a lot of importance. Let's forget about BECA that we spoke about. Let's forget about the agreements. Let us speak predominantly two things: Indo-Pacific. Very important. Now, author calls Indo-Pacific as a grand politico-economic vision. Very beautifully used. It's a grand politico-economic vision. He calls the Quad as a forum for or of strategic, military, strategic and military cooperation or consultation. Again, very beautiful words. Indo-Pacific is a grand politico-economic vision. Quad is a forum for strategic and military cooperation or consultation. Now the author throws it on us if you want to look at Indo-Pacific and Quad together or if you want to look at it separately. Now if you look at it together, it is very important because it makes sense also if you look at it together because the countries who are in Quad like Australia, Japan, USA and India are all a member of the Indo-Pacific region, common geographic region, and one thing that binds them together like a binding glue is anti-China sentiment, right? None of these countries are happy with China. So this is like an interlink that is going on. But if you look at it separately, it becomes difficult for them to exist because they have their very own visions, they have their very own ideas, they have their very own moving forward together. Like if you talk about Quad and anti-China, you can understand that Australia has not that much problem with China as India has because China has no problem with them. They have not done anything except for how they are claiming hegemony in the South China Sea. Australia has no other issue. But India's issue is way more deeper than Australia because India's territorial integrity is being harmed by China. So these things become important. So the author is saying it is up to us to look at it as a single entity or different entity. And if you look at a different entity, both of their existence becomes difficult is what he says. Now let us go further. If you talk about the Indo-Pacific region, there are several hurdles that India suffers from. Several hurdles that India suffers from. Let us learn them one by one. First hurdle that India suffers from is India needs, very plain and simple, needs more political engagement, military engagement, and economic engagement. Right? This is very important. As a part of this, we have to understand RCEP. RCEP stands for Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is the free trade agreement of ASEAN and other member countries 10 plus 6. Now India has taken a step back from signing the RCEP because of its domestic political considerations, and you know how RCEP will affect our local domestic manufacturers and how there will be influx of Chinese goods. So India has uh, stopped itself as and not given complete consent to sign the RCEP agreement. Now this will be a problem as a part of the economic problems because China is a very open country for these kind of agreements. And going a little further, India has FTAs in the Indo-Pacific region with countries like South Korea, Japan, and Sri Lanka, also with ASEAN countries or ASEAN in general. But the wider picture is India does not have FTAs with countries. There are so many like Australia, New Zealand, US, Bangladesh, Maldives. With so many countries, India does not have FTAs, but with these countries only India has FTAs. If you talk about China, India has FTAs, China has FTAs with all these countries. Let me repeat, if you talk about China, China has FTAs with all these countries except USA, which is not its friend right now, and Bangladesh. Its FTAs with Sri Lanka are in a negotiation. It will come up, and they're also trying for something called as trilateral FTAs. Who? China is talking about something called as trilateral FTAs. So if you talk about India's economic engagement in this region is very less, dominated by the cause of its domestic political considerations, domestic political considerations. Now, when India has such less FTAs, such less political engagement, how do we see that Indo-Pacific will be the game for us? How do we believe that we can do wonders in the Indo-Pacific region? Is a very straightforward question asked by the author. So please understand this: China's engagement in the Indo-Pacific region, where India is trying to engage, is a lot. So I will bring your attention to this picture that I have put here. This is from the article. If you see bilateral annual trade, it's given a comparative analysis in 2018 in US dollars. If you see the bilateral annual trade of India and China with these nations who are a part of the Indo-Pacific, see who stands bigger. Australia, $252 billion, where we are still at $30 billion. Here New Zealand, $33.4 billion, where they're just $2 billion. $737 billion with USA, we are at 87. Look at the difference. It's so huge and so vast. So if you look at it, China is clearly the winner when it comes to economic engagement. So why this author is saying this is because if tomorrow there is a situation for these countries to choose between India and China, they will definitely choose China, because for them economic might and their money is important, not friendship, right? So it's any common sentiment that any country in international relations would do. So this is about the economic scenario of India in this region. Let me give some more insights. You can talk about military might, right? If you talk about military might, China is a huge supplier or a huge manufacturer of defense equipments. And if you talk about India, India only has defense exercises. India itself imports defense equipments from these nations. So when you talk about military, again, China will be the winner. China will be the winner, and China will get a hold of these nations better than India, because China supplies arms and ammunitions to them, because China has its own kind of technologies. But India is still in the nascent development stages. So what is the way forward to us for us? What do we do in this regard? What we do is deepen economic ties. This is the only possible solution, because we cannot double up our defense capabilities and we can export weapons. That's a very stupid choice to make. What we have to do is defense ties has to be deepened, and the economic role that we play the economic ties have to be deepened, and the role where we play there has to be strengthened. Or what we can do is form somewhat loose alliance with USA and its allies. But again, this has its flip side, because this will set to lose anytime. This will be not preferred anytime. So the decision that we have to take here is should be based on our economic policies or economic ideologies that will help us move forward and develop more cooperation with the nations of the Indo-Pacific. As you know, the Ministry of External Affairs now has created its Indo-Pacific division. So we have to start working faster and develop more and more ties with these nations, and not rely on something like soft power, something like talks or so on. We have to do something more strategic and more strengthening. For that, we have to push our own domestic manufacturing capabilities. We have to push our own manufacturing ideas, strengths, etc. etc. I hope this thing is clear. We have given an all-encompassing narrative of the 2 plus 2 summit, its outcomes, its current standing, and its implications, the hurdles, the backdrop, etc. I hope this concept is clear. Let us move on to the next topic. Here we are talking about the new rules in Jammu and Kashmir. Now you know that there are new rules that have been brought out. The Gazette notification has been brought out in Jammu and Kashmir, which has said that people from other regions, not just from Jammu and Kashmir, can come and buy or sell or gift land in Jammu and Kashmir. Now it has a lot of pros, that is a lot of advantages, because there will be development, there will be better infrastructure, there will be employment, there will be globalization. All these things are possibly set to take place in Kashmir, in Jammu region, in Kashmir region, or in the Ladakh region. But the problem here is opposition. I'm not talking about political parties, but the people themselves of Jammu and Kashmir are not happy with this decision. They themselves are resenting against this decision, and they are saying that this is not a right move to make. And of course, they are fueled by the political parties. Like, the recently Mehbooba Mufti and Farooq Abdullah have all spoken against how this move will affect the people of the region, and how this is not in the very favor of the people of the region if you are speaking about the development of the region. It is also spoken about how there is geographical vulnerability in the region, like how you cannot go on doing developing industries in a fragile rain shadow region like Ladakh and Kashmir, and how the people are used to such beautiful weather and such beautiful natural conditions with regards to nature. But it also speaks about how these people were subjected to curtailment of civil and economic liberties, or civil rights of their own from the central government due to detainment and lockdowns and so much. So if you are accessing 5G today, Kashmir is still in 2G. So all these examples have been provided in this editorial and spoken about how this move is quite a difficult thing to undertake. And here it says people's participation in the political process is a must for Jammu and Kashmir to see stability with growth. So this is very important. We have to see how this will pan out and how this will result. And we are hoping and praying that nothing wrong as such happens in this region, because we all want a united India. With this, let us move on to the next topic. This topic is talking about a very, very important thing that we need to be aware of. And as we are learning for something very important like the UPSC or the elite services, all these vulnerabilities is what we need to be aware of when we go forward. Caters to GS paper 2 as well as the prelims examination. Here we are talking about dyslexia. Here we're talking about dyslexia. If you see the picture here, Zawamir Khan and Darshil Safari from the movie Tare Zameen Par, where Darshil Safari plays the role of Ishan Awasthi, a child who is dyslexic. So let us learn a little bit about dyslexia. Dyslexia is also called as the specific learning disorder. So in this specific learning disorder, it becomes difficult for the child to read or write. Not just that, it is accompanied with various things, like the child is not able to decode, or convert symbols into sounds. He is not able to comprehend difficult words. He or she is not able to comprehend difficult words. They may have poor phonological awareness. They will not be able to understand the words properly. They will not be able to recognize similarities. Like if you see the movie itself, I would suggest you watch the movie to understand this idea. The child is not able to differentiate between B and D. So this is the differences that the child finds difficult to understand. They are not able to differentiate between rhyming words, and they have trouble in sequencing. Let's say there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a sequence. They can't sequence that, and they can't talk about several things coming together, and they cannot remember in the most perfect manner, but they surely remember. And this is because they have a weak working memory. Working memory is something that we like quickly watch, remember, and store it for further use. And if we want it to remain for the longest time, we practice it as it stores in the long term memory. So this working memory is compared to RAM by the author in this article, and she says this is very weak in these children, and they are not able to put this information together and make their daily lives easy and simple like how it is for normal people. So this is the thing with dyslexic children. But we have to understand that these are not outcasts, or they are not tabooed people. They are someone who are a very much part of the society simply because they are human beings, and they are excelling at some other things greatly. Like if you see, Ishan in this film is a very good painter. He's a very good artist. So like that, if the children is not able to study or read and write, that does not mean he's fit for nothing. He is doing great for himself in painting or writing, or maybe in sports, maybe in singing, dancing, acting, etc. So we have to look at it in the right manner. Now, why does dyslexia occur? Dyslexia predominantly occurs due to genes, and it is a disorder that runs in the genes, it runs in the family and gets transferred to children. So the author says that dyslexia often runs in the family, and various comparisons between the normal brains and the brains of dyslexic children show that the brains are a little bit different than the normal people, and that is what is the cause of the dyslexia, and it's often manifested due to differences in the genes, and this affects a lot of people. But the author also quotes several great examples of people like Albert Einstein, Agatha Christie, Steve Jobs, who are all dyslexic but are great individuals. Now, most of your physics is dominated by Mr. Einstein. Most of our crime novels are dominated by Agatha Christie. And of course, if you're using an iPad and if you're watching this video on your iPhone, thanks Steve Jobs, who was a dyslexic. So, likewise, this is a disorder. Like if you have cancer, it's a disorder. It's a major disorder. But dyslexia also has an important role to play. It's not curable, but it can be lived with. But cancer is way more difficult to survive with. So likewise, you cannot draw analysis between various things, but we have to understand if there is a disorder, this is a disorder as well. Now, what are the remedial measures that we can undertake? The remedial measures is just that the teachers have to understand. The teachers have to recognize And if you talk about it very specifically, we can refer it to National Education Policy of 2020, which has said that there should be inclusive education for all children with disabilities. That children with different abilities, as different as special abilities, should be provided with special schools, special ideas to learn and cope up with. It should be supported with what they need. So what the author talks about here is cognitive assessments. So before a child joins the school, if a joins a class, this is not like private schools or huge private schools that are taking exams or entrance exam. This is about cognitive assessment to analyze how well the child can learn, how well he can progress, so on and so forth. If this is done, we are able to recognize these children, and if they are in need of special education, not normal conventional education, they can be sent to special schools where they will be taught in accordance to how their learning needs need them. So this is how we can approach and we can find a solution. The parents have to understand that this is a disorder that exists and children can be vulnerable to it. But these children are not fit for nothing, and teachers should not discourage them, should take them forward, should encourage them, like how Amir Khan encourages Darshil Safari to take up his painting, do a good job with painting, and become a very good painter in the future. I hope this idea is clear, this concept and this disorder is clear. Let us move on to the next topic. Here we are talking about deep fakes, which is a very important threat for the country today. So deep fakes are also called as deep nudes. So these are basically morphed pictures where the face is of someone and the body is of someone, but they are so true that you will tend to believe that this is the original picture. Now it is not just done in pictures, but it's also done in videos. It's also done in audios as well. So this is why they are called as deep fakes, that they are so true that you will believe them. Now they are very damaging in nature, and they are used in several places to do several wrong things. Of course, artificial intelligence plays a very important role. That's why the author says deep fakes, countering deep fakes, the most serious artificial intelligence threat. So these people use it in order to defame others. These several illegal hackers, several people who are involving in kind of alleged antisocial activities use them to defame people, to damage people's reputation. They use it to inflict damage on people's lives, people's ordinary functioning, people's popularity, and it can be used to target women specifically, to damage their careers, to damage their social standing, etc. And of course, it can be used by political parties to defame the opposition political parties or to undermine the idea of democracy. So this is what the article predominantly caters to, the idea of deepfakes from UPSC point of view. This first came into existence, or first was identified in the year 2017. When this came into picture, they are computer generated, they are superimposed, and they can play a very important role in an individual's life because they can make or break someone's career as such. So the important role that we're supposed to play is by the citizens of the country, and by regulators, and by media. So first, regulators should develop a multi-stakeholder and multimodal approach towards countering these deepfakes by strengthening our cybersecurity space and by developing proper kind of regulations against it. And the technology that is being used should also be countered in the right manner. And we should have meaningful media literacy, that people should be literate to understand that something called as deep fakes exists. So if you see this, it is crucial to enhance media literacy, meaningful regulations and platform policies, and amplify authoritative sources. We need to understand that this is a problem and people should not believe it. So if you see social media handles today, everything exists in any manner they want. So we have to be careful that what we get on WhatsApp or what we get on any other places is not true, it's not believable. We have to cross question it and then believe it and stop spreading it to others. So we as citizens need to play an important role, and government and regulators also do. I hope this concept is clear. Let us move on to the next one. Here we are talking about what is called as green crackers. So Diwali is coming, so we have to be aware of what is this green crackers. So these are crackers but are green. That means they are not green in nature or green in color, but they have reduced emissions and reduced pollution levels. So this caters to GS paper 3 as well as the prelims point of view. So they are less harmful and they are less dangerous than the conventional crackers, and they have reduced emissions and reduced decibel levels, and they are called as green crackers predominantly because they have a chemical formulation that produces water molecules, and this leads to reduced emissions and reduced decibel levels. So it has said, or it has promised, that it will reduce particulate matter and harmful gases like nitrous oxide or sulfur oxide by 30 to 35%, and it will be cheaper for the manufacturers by a percentage of 25 to 30%. It will be cheaper for the manufacturers. Now this is important because a lot of places in India are suffering from the population, from the problem of air pollution, and it's so dreadful for the people today, as the air pollution level has been rising predominantly in Delhi, where the air pollution level has gone to severe, right? So this is very important. The Supreme Court, after a petition which was filed, has said that we need to take this step, and has asked the CPCB to conduct the so-called survey and come forward with this green crackers that that have come into picture now, and and in Diwali they are being used in the right manner. So we have to note the names Swas, Star, and Safal. These are the names that have come into picture. So the names Swas, Star, and Safal become important because these are the names given to the green crackers developed by CSIR, and NEERI is also playing an important role, which is a part of CSIR, and they are tested at PESO. PESO is the Petroleum Explosive Safety Organization. So green crackers are important from UPSC point of view. Please remember all these points and especially these names. Let us move on to the next topic. But the last topic for the day is about environment for prelims examination. This picture is from Mudumalai Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. It's a beautiful picture of elephant trying to reach the tamarind, apparently, as the line goes. So let us learn a little bit about Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. Mudumalai Tiger Reserve is located in the Nilgiris district of Tamil Nadu. In the Nilgiris district of Tamil Nadu, or it is known for how it is located at the tri-junction of Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. It is located between the tri-junction of Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. The Mudumalai Tiger Reserve is a part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which is the first biosphere reserve in India. Apart from that, it is closely located inside the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary of Kerala, Bandipur National Park of Karnataka, and the Mukurthi National Park and Silent Valley in south, that is again in Kerala. So as you know, it's located in the tri-junction of this particular region, and the name Mudumalai means ancient hill range. Mudumalai means ancient hill range, and it is ancient because it is pretty old, located in the Western Ghats, and was formed when the Western Ghats were formed. Now, as you know, there is elephants that are found here, and there are tigers found here. There are squirrels, jungle cats, etc. These are the kind of animals that are found. Apart from that, bamboo is very fondly available, and there are several important species of flora like teak, rosewood, etc. are found in this region. It has to be noted that it is a very important bird region where a lot of bird species, over 200 bird species, are found in this region, and rare species of birds like Malabar grey hornbill, there is Malabar laughing thrush, several other birds are found in the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. So we need to discuss all this because UPSC has forgotten to ask about the location and the name, but it's going more deeper. So Mudumalai Tiger Reserve becomes important from UPSC point of view. Let us discuss the next one in news here, that is Kaziranga. So you must have heard of the Kaziranga National Park, located in Assam, right? It's located in Assam, and it is also known for how it is the single largest undisturbed representative area of a national park, and is located in the floodplain of the Brahmaputra River. You know that it's located in Assam and close to the Brahmaputra River, and it is not just a national park but also a tiger reserve, which has been declared so in the year 2007. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a natural UNESCO World Heritage Site, and also an important bird area recognized by BirdLife International. Now, the most important species found here is the one-horned rhinoceros, or the Indian rhinos as we call them, and one of the largest density of one-horned rhinoceros is found here. And inside this national park, you have the Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary, which has the highest density of them. We have to note this importantly. Apart from this, you have the important species like the elephant, Royal Bengal tiger, you have Asiatic water buffalo. And apart from that, you have the rhino, and this four together are called as the big four. If you are asked a question in which among the following national parks will you find the big four species, it is in the Kaziranga National Park, and it has one of the highest number of elephants in the country, not the highest, but one of the highest number of elephants and one of the highest number of tigers as well. Apart from this, you also find some primates, some animal of sorts like the golden langur. You will find some kind of primates also located here. It has to be noted that National Highway 37 passes through this region, and the park has several water bodies inside it, predominantly coming from the Brahmaputra river, which floods this national park most of the time, and due to the floods we see that several animals have also lost their lives, and this is located on the floodplains of Brahmaputra. I hope this explanation today was clear and understandable. If you have any doubts or discrepancies, write to us in the comment section. Thank you for staying tuned to RS Agarwal. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.